September 9th, 1943, the Mediterranean Sea. The Italian battleship Roma, one of the most powerful warships ever built, cuts through the waves with her fleet. She's massive, nearly 900 feet long, armed with 9 15-inch guns, protected by armor thick enough to stop any conventional weapon of the era. But high above, 6 German Dornier bombers are tracking her every move. What happens next will change warfare forever. A single bomb strikes just forward of the Roma's front stack. Fire erupts. Then, a catastrophic explosion rips the battleship in half. In minutes, she's gone, taking 1,254 men to the bottom of the Mediterranean. This wasn't luck. This wasn't carpet bombing. This was precision. This was the world's first guided bomb in combat. Today, we're diving into one of World War II's most revolutionary and least known technological races, the development of smart bombs. Let's rewind. At the start of World War II, aerial bombing was essentially throwing rocks from the sky, just with more explosives and from higher up. Technology had advanced. The Americans had the Norden bomb sight, touted as a miracle device that could supposedly drop a bomb into a pickle barrel from 20,000 feet. In reality, the Army Air Forces considered it a success if their bombs landed within a 1,000-foot circle of the target. That's over 3 football fields of error. Fine for hitting a city or a factory complex, but utterly useless for precision targets. And precision targets were everywhere. Narrow railway bridges in the Burmese jungle, locks on the Danube River, viaducts in the Italian mountains, moving warships at sea. Once a bomb left the aircraft, it was governed purely by physics. No corrections, no adjustments, just gravity and hope. The Germans experienced this frustration firsthand during the Spanish Civil War. Their Condor Legion tried repeatedly to bomb maneuvering ships with conventional bombs. It was nearly impossible. The ships would simply turn, and the bombs would splash harmlessly into the water. But what if you could guide the bomb after release? What if the bombardier could make corrections mid-flight, steering the weapon right onto the target? Both the Allies and the Axis powers asked this question, and both came up with remarkably similar answers. Dr. Max Kramer, working for the German company Ruhrstahl. In 1938, frustrated by the limitations of conventional bombing, Kramer had a radical idea: add radio-controlled spoilers to a bomb's tail. Think about it. If you could send radio signals to adjust small control surfaces on the bomb as it fell, you could steer it, like flying a deadly model airplane. By 1940, Kramer had developed the FX-1400, nicknamed the Fritz-X. This wasn't just any bomb. It was a 3,469-pound armor-piercing monster, specifically designed to punch through battleship armor. Its warhead carried 660 pounds of high explosives, enough to sink even the largest warship afloat. Here's how it worked. A Luftwaffe bomber would approach from 18,000 feet, releasing the Fritz-X about 3 miles from the target. After release, the pilot would decelerate dramatically, almost to a stall, allowing the bomb to fall ahead of the aircraft. A bright flare on the bomb's tail made it visible to the bombardier, who would track it through his sight. Using a joystick controller, he could send radio signals to adjust the bomb's path, superimposing the falling weapon over the target image. During its fall, the Fritz-X would accelerate to 950 feet per second. The bombardier could correct its path by over 1,600 feet in range and more than 1,100 feet laterally. In training, skilled bombardiers could consistently place the Fritz-X within 15 feet of a moving target. The Luftwaffe established a special unit, the 3rd Squadron of Kampfgeschwader 100, to deploy this new weapon. They trained extensively in Dornier Do, 217 Kelvin's 2 bombers. By March 1943, they were operational. 750 Fritz-X bombs were stockpiled at coastal airfields across Europe. And then came September 9th, 1943, the moment we opened with. The Italian fleet was defecting to the Allies after Italy's surrender. 6 Do-217s launched from Istres, France, to stop them. When they found the fleet, They targeted the pride of the Italian Navy, the battleship Roma. The Roma began an evasive turn, but it didn't matter. The Fritz-X bombardier guided his weapon directly into the ship, hitting just forward of the front stack. Fire spread rapidly. When the flames reached the forward magazine, a massive explosion tore the Roma apart. The battleship sank in minutes. 1,254 men died. History's first capital ship sunk by a guided bomb. The Fritz-X continued operations through early 1944. Between August 1943 and February 1944, German crews conducted 28 attacks with the weapon. The results? 1 ship sunk, 4 damaged. A 30% direct hit rate in combat, impressive compared to conventional bombing, but far from the training results. Why the discrepancy? Combat conditions. Enemy jamming interfered with radio signals. The Germans developed wire-guided versions to counter this, but they had limited range. Weather and visibility often prevented attacks. You can't guide a bomb you can't see. And most critically, the delivery aircraft had to maintain a steady, predictable course during the entire bomb fall, making them sitting ducks for anti-aircraft fire. While the Germans focused on sinking ships, the Americans faced a different problem: the bridges of Burma. In April 1942, Major Henry J. Rand and Thomas J. O'Donnell were tasked with solving an impossible problem. The Burma Railway was supported by dozens of narrow wooden bridges, critical to Japanese supply lines. Conventional bombing was useless, the bridges were too narrow. You could drop thousands of bombs and miss every time, simply because your range calculation was off by a few feet. Their solution was elegant. If you can't control range, control direction. They developed the AZON bomb, short for Azimuth Only. Based on a standard 1,000-pound bomb, the AZON featured a completely redesigned tail unit. It included a gyroscopic stabilization system to prevent the bomb from spinning or weaving. Compressed air kept the gyros spinning during the fall. An octagonal shroud with control surfaces allowed directional adjustments. A 600,000 candela flare, incredibly bright, enabled the bombardier to track it visually, and a radio receiver accepted steering commands. After dropping an AZON bomb, the bombardier would track it through his bomb site and use a joystick control to send corrective commands left or right. That's it. No up or down, no range control. Just azimuth. This made the AZON perfect for long, narrow targets like bridges and railways, where errors in length didn't matter, you just needed to be on the right line. For circular targets though, the AZON was actually worse than conventional bombs because the aircraft had to loiter over the target during the bomb's entire fall, exposing itself to anti-aircraft fire. The system was remarkably clever. The aircraft had 3 antennas beneath its tail section, one transmitted at 475 cycles for left deflection, one at 3,000 cycles for right deflection, and one at 30 to 40 cycles to activate the smoke generating system for visibility. These frequencies were changed periodically to prevent enemy jamming. The AZON had one peculiar limitation. Only 5 different radio channels were available. This meant you could only control 5 bombs independently at once. In theory, you could drop multiple bombs on the same channel and steer them all together, but in practice, only the primary bomb, the one the bombardier was actually tracking, would hit accurately. The others would disperse wildly. Production began in 1943, and by November 1944, 15,000 AZON kits had been built. Now, here's a detail I love. The AZON antenna sticking out from the tail of the aircraft was highly classified. One day, someone not involved in the program asked a ground crewman what it was for. The crewman, mindful of secrecy, replied with a straight face, "It's a highly classified flak repellent gadget. It keeps the plane from getting hit." The AZON was deployed to Europe in February 1944, but commanders were skeptical. They didn't think azimuth-only steering was worth the increased risk of having bombers loiter over targets. The 8th Air Force rejected it outright. But the 15th Air Force in Italy gave it a chance and scored impressive victories. Direct hits on the Danube River locks at the Iron Gates, the Avisio Viaduct south of the Brenner Pass was destroyed. The real success story, though, was Burma. The 7th Bombardment Group took the AZON to war in the Pacific Theater in late 1944, and the results were spectacular. December 27th, 1944. The rail bridge at Pyinmana, Burma, had withstood thousands of conventional bombs over 2 years. Nothing could bring it down. 9 Azon bombs demolished it in a single attack. 3 days later, on December 30th, the 493rd Bomb Squadron launched an even more ambitious mission. 4 B-24 Liberators, equipped with 28 Azon bombs, plus 2 conventional Liberators as backup. Primary target, the Nyang Chudok Bridge. First alternate, the Nyang Chudok Bypass Bridge. Second alternate, the Taunggup Bridge. 6 direct hits obliterated the primary bridge. 2 more destroyed the bypass bridge. The conventional B-24s tried and failed to hit the nearby Oakshitpin Bridge, but the Azon crews destroyed it in 2 passes. Then they crossed the mountains and dropped a span of the Taunggup Road Bridge. In one mission, 4 major bridges were disabled, with bombs to spare. By the end of the Burma campaign, the 493rd and other 7th Bomb Group units had destroyed 27 difficult bridge targets using 459 Azons. Their direct hit rate, between 12 and 15%, which sounds low until you realize conventional bombing had essentially a 0% success rate against these targets. In total, 1,357 Azons were dropped in Burma, destroying 41 bridges and damaging 12 more. Average errors, 131 feet in azimuth, 207 feet in range. Marion Crawley, a B-24 radio operator, participated in the attack on Bridge 277, better known as the Bridge on the River Kwai. Yes, that bridge. His bombardier, Frank, knocked out 1 span with a direct hit. Only 1 life was lost across all the attacking aircraft. But these missions were dangerous. Leo Eatman, a B-24 navigator on Azon missions, recalled, "To ensure better results, we would approach targets at altitudes of 4,000 to 6,000 feet, not from 10,000 or higher. This altitude reduced the wind factor and gave the bombardier a closer look at the falling bomb. 4,000 to 6,000 feet. That's well within range of virtually every anti-aircraft weapon the Japanese had." Lieutenant Colonel Richard T. Hedrick flew AZON missions over Italy, targeting the Ancona-Rimini rail line. He recalled the surreal experience. "The railroad line was there. We were all on automatic pilot. The well-polished rails reflected the sunlight brightly. The bomb site brought us into the proper position for bombing and corrected for drift, which would minimize the necessity for any radical turns of the bombs under radio control." His first bomb landed dead center on the tracks. He also noted something amusing. The equipment came from a model airplane shop in Boston. The cutting edge of military technology sourced from a hobby store. By mid-1944, both the Fritz-X and Azon were fading from use. The limitations were clear. Both required visual tracking, meaning clear weather. Both required the aircraft to maintain a steady course during the bomb's fall, increasing vulnerability. And both had reliability issues with jamming and mechanical failures. The Americans recognized the range limitation of Azon and developed an upgraded version with dual-axis control called Raison Range and Azimuth. It was completed just as the war ended and never saw combat. In the European theater, analyses concluded that while the Azon equipment functioned well, the medium altitude approach and long loiter time made missions particularly hazardous. After September 1944, Azon operations ceased in Europe. The guided bomb concept, however, didn't die. It evolved. Fast forward to 1997. The Joint Direct Attack Munition, JDAM, enters service. Like Azon, it's a guidance kit added to existing dumb bombs. But instead of a bombardier with a joystick and flares, JDAM uses GPS and inertial guidance. During testing in 1998 and 1999, over 450 JDAMs were dropped with a 95% system reliability rate and an accuracy of 9.6 meters, about 31 feet. The Azon's average error was 131 feet in azimuth and 207 feet in range. JDAM improved on that by more than tenfold. Today, precision-guided munitions are the standard, not the exception. The technology that seemed like science fiction in 1943, guiding a bomb to hit a target the size of a car, is now routine. But it all started with Dr. Max Kramer attaching radio-controlled spoilers to a bomb tail in 1938, and with Major Henry Rand and Thomas O'Donnell jury-rigging guidance equipment from a Boston model airplane shop in 1942. The battleship Roma sinking into the Mediterranean. The bridges of Burma collapsing into rivers. These weren't just tactical victories. They were proof of concept. They were the birth of smart weapons. From throwing rocks in anger to GPS-guided munitions, humanity's journey in warfare has been one of increasing precision. Whether that's progress or tragedy is a question for philosophers. But there's no question that on September 9th, 1943, when the Fritz-X plunged into the Roma, and on December 27th, 1944, when 9 Azons demolished the Pyinmana bridge, warfare changed forever. The age of smart bombs had begun.